Am I reading this right? Lemon beer extract?
Lemon beer. Piru. It's piru, not biru.
Oh, yeah. Sorry, my translate is saying beer, not peel.
That little circle changes the meaning a lot.
Oh, yeah. It says, feeling of fruit juice that squeezed a lemon to a rind of fruit using domestic lemon beer extract.
Welcome to My Hill to Die On, episode 16.
Everyone has things that they're passionate about.
Things we want our friends to try and experience.
So we've convinced each other to try different things.
And we talk about these experiences to see if we can get just one more person
to join us on our hill to die on.
With all this coronavirus stuff, my daughters will be getting tons of mail from school. And it's all like, oh, more homework. So one of my daughters had a little packet today and she's like, oh, I don't want this. More work.
Well, I will tell you that it has been very interesting watching all of our academic office and business office staff basically in the hallway for the past week stuffing envelopes. Because we have so many teachers who are like, oh, I'm going to send this thing home. And then there are some who are like, I'm going to send something else home either every week or every other week.
Mm-hmm.
And so I just think about the parents and all the mail costs and things like that I'm just like, I'm so glad that all of my class is basically, check your Google Classroom. It's all there.
My wife had to send a few papers home, but not too many. But my kids have been receiving a lot of papers. And actually, I really do appreciate that. I have found that with 3 iPads that we have received from school, especially my middle daughter, hers is slightly older than the rest of them, not much older in age, but that one will die at about 1 p.m. if she has to do all her work on the iPad. And I find that it is much easier for her to do work in paper and then take pictures of it. She actually just works faster that way. Because working with Seesaw, the platform we have here in elementary, it's an amazing platform. I've not ever been this in-depth into it. And I really like it now that I've been this in-depth into it. But filling out a worksheet in Seesaw is unbelievably annoying. Just lining things up, handwriting. One of the worksheets my middle daughter has to do is cursive writing. And doing that with your finger is just horrible. That's not what cursive is for. And that's not why we're teaching it in 3rd grade either.
No, and at the end of the day, I only talk about like how easy it is to do everything digitally, but that's because where I'm at, I'm not having them learn cursive.
Right.
I'm teaching them to do like research projects.
Yeah, nor are you asking them to fill out boxes in a worksheet that have a pre-specified size that we're expecting you to handwrite, right?
No.
That's where it gets to be the problem, is like she has an answer she has to write, but she has to fit it in the box. And so that means she has to resize the text box to get it to fit in the worksheet spot. Like, that's what's really annoying about it. It's a great platform, and you can do that, which is amazing. But it just takes her forever. And if she could have hand-wrote it on a piece of paper and then taken a picture and uploaded it, it's much better. So I'm glad that they've sent out a whole bunch of new packets for her. But I'm impressed with the platform. It is not for everything, and I'm glad that teachers are sending stuff home.
Yeah, it is one of those things where I just see how much they're trying to stuff into some of these envelopes, and
Actually, I did see when I walked into school the other day. I spent like 3 hours at school last week, the whole week.
Some people have all the luck.
Well, I am doing homework a lot of the time too. I'm not doing the work. I'm sorry.
I'll believe that.
There was a time last week, one of our colleagues called, and all of a sudden, I was helping my youngest daughter, and my 2 older daughters walked in with their iPads and says, Dad, can you check this? Just as I had received the phone call. And I said, no, I'm going to have to call you back. So that happened a few times. That's what I was going to say. I forgot. When I was at school, the secretary showed me she had just received, it's not a template. It looks like a stencil is what it looked like. But what it was for passing envelopes through. Like, pretend you have a stencil and you pass things through it. If you can pass the envelope through it, that means it fits through all the machines at the postal service.
Yeah, I think of it like the carry-on luggage box.
Yeah, pretty much, for envelopes. Can you fit your thing through here? Because apparently she said that some of them got returned because it has to smoothly fit through that. You can't like shove it through. It has to smoothly fit through.
Yeah, well, I mean, when there are teachers who are sending home a textbook in a envelope, yeah, that's where the problem was.
Yep, pretty much. Yeah, the State Department sent out that warnings that all the Americans should return home.
Why? America's more dangerous right now.
I know, right?
More people are dying over there than over here.
Yeah. Although, I do wonder if America might be taking it a little bit more seriously than Japan, though. But anyway.
Oh, I'm sure they are, but...
Only because they're more in deep.
But here's the other side of things. Per capita, per person, Japan has far more respirators. So if you get sick, Japan has more likelihood of you being able to get a respirator.
So interestingly, my daughter said, well, why aren't we returning to America? I'm like, because this is my home. I said, where do we go? Our whole family? What do we do in America? Yeah, this is our home. They're calling tourists back is what they're doing, not people who live abroad. Well, and even some who live abroad for various reasons would need to go back, but not us.
Yeah, I hear that and kind of laugh to myself because I'm in a better situation here than there because I have health insurance here. There are more ventilators here. There's just so many more things that are a bit more safe here than I would have available to me in America.
A secure income for now.
Yeah. As of right now, this is a whole lot better of a situation for me than if I were to rush back home.
But, even in Japan, like today, we're like, all right, we should go to the grocery store and pick up a few things we need. But as we're approaching the grocery store in our car, so many cars going into that store, so many people there. It's like, oh my. And it was very interesting seeing the protections that they've put up. Like there are now plastic barriers between the people in the line and the cashiers. And the lines have marks on the floor now to keep you 2 meters apart from the person in front of you, which was a nice addition. Of course, nobody was following that because there were so many people in the store.
Yeah. Well, it's Saturday, so, I mean, this tends to be the day where everybody goes shopping.
Yeah, I know everyone was in their homes all week, and now they're gone out to shop. And I was thinking to my wife, I was like, we should just go on Monday. Why do we leave a house on Saturday? But we ended up being able to pull off our shopping with minimal contact, so I was pretty pleased, but yikes. It was a bit nerve-wracking being in that store.
I really should be buying more in bulk. But I tend to buy my daily meals each day. And so I'm the type of person who will dash into the grocery store, buy what I need for that day, and then dash out. But because of that, I'm in for like 3 minutes to 4 minutes.
And my wife has been actually doing pretty good. Like in many ways, the only reason we had to go to the store was because we ran out of only a few things. Like we ran out of bread, right? Things like that. Like we needed bread for sandwiches.
Yeah.
Some meat again. But my wife has already done a lot of planning and already has a bunch of stuff. We just need to stock up on a few items. So that worked out pretty well.
Yeah, and that makes sense.
We need more ice cream.
The essentials.
Necessary. Carrot ice cream.
I'm still going with the fact that is an abomination unto the Lord. I received a piece of mail today of my current apartment saying, you have officially told us that you're leaving, so sign and affirm that is true.
Oh, interesting.
I've got to start packing. Oh, gosh. This room. Sorry, I'm just looking around because the room that I record in is what I have called my storage room for a while.
Are there items still in boxes from when you moved into there?
No.
You've unpacked everything?
I unpacked everything, but there are piles. Like, I have the table that was originally given to me by the school that we work for because it's a dining table and I never eat at a dining table because I'm a horrible human being. Well, horrible at being a civilized human being, thank you very much. On top of that table is basically my library of books, of the physical books that I have in the country. And so I just have this pile of books on top of a dining table in the corner of a room, in addition to like a couple of bookshelves of DVDs and collections there. So, yeah, it's going to be some packing. Also, I have to get rid of stuff, because there are certain things that I know are already in the apartment I'm going to be moving into that I need to... So I need to get rid of the old one. So yeah, there's all that.
All right, Ryan. So what have you been playing?
I have been playing a lot of Animal Crossing lately, actually.
24 hours a day?
Not quite.
Some sleeping is involved, huh?
Some sleeping is involved. But I've been playing a lot of that, mostly due to the fact that, and this is the one thing that I'm trying to distract myself from, is last Friday, Final Fantasy VII Remake came out.
Mm-hmm.
And since mine is physical, I have to wait for it to arrive.
Deliveries here have been pretty good.
Deliveries here have been pretty good. According to the delivery company, it says that it is designed to arrive sometime before the end of the day on Monday.
Oh, okay. Good. Okay.
So we'll see what happens. I am not holding my breath. But Animal Crossing, let's talk about that for a bit.
Mm-hmm.
So for those of you who don't know, the newest one is Animal Crossing New Horizons, I believe is the full title.
Yeah, Pocket Camp was the previous one, right?
Pocket Camp was a mobile one, yeah.
Oh, that only works on the phone. Didn't it work on the Switch too?
It might have worked on the Switch, but it was mostly an iOS app.
Okay.
Because this is the first full mainline Animal Crossing title that's been out in a number of years.
Wow, there's an Animal Crossing for Nintendo 64.
Yeah, that was the original.
Oh, I should buy that.
That was the one that I first played. That one actually has a character called Mr. Rossetti, where if you reset your system without saving, the next time you start up the game, he'll pop out of the ground and yell at you for resetting the game. Because apparently some kids actually became dreadfully afraid of turning on the game if they forgot to save before they turned it off. Because of this guy. Anyway, so Animal Crossing, specifically New Horizons, is a game where basically you have purchased a getaway package to a deserted island. And you arrive on this deserted island and you basically are building it up and making it more of a community and inviting villagers to stay on there and basically just building up your island into something a little bit more from where you start. Because where you start is a tent with basically a cot. And by the end of the game, you can have a house that has multiple rooms, a attic space, a basement, all these different things. You can build up a museum with all of the different animals and fossils that you can find on this island and things like that. It is a free reign game, though.
So it's like, I don't know what the official category of these games are, but I call it building up digital treasures as opposed to treasures in heaven, right? I have a few games like this on my phone that I've played in the past. So it's like, I'm sitting there realizing I'm building up my digital treasures, which means nothing, right? Why can I make $5 billion per minute in this game, but not in real life? That those kind of questions, right?
Kind of, but not really. It's more of a... Have you ever played, The Sims?
I've never played it, but I've seen it, yeah.
It's more similar to that sort of idea.
Because it's a little more social, right? Is that why?
Yeah, it's more of a social aspect. It's designed to be a very relaxing game where you're just living life and basically taking it easy on this island. Yes, you do have a crippling debt to a raccoon that you have to pay off eventually. Mm-hmm. But basically, when you first arrive on the island, you have a debt for the package to arrive on the island, including the tent and the phone and that he gives you and all this stuff. Mm-hmm. And once you pay that off, he says, oh, well, I can make you a house. And then once he makes you a house, then he says, now here's your new debt. Mm-hmm. And so he keeps doing stuff like that. But I really enjoy it. The real danger I have right now is the fact that I just unlocked terraforming on my island.
Mm-hmm. What can you do with terraforming?
I can basically change. So every island has some rivers, some mountains, and trees, and all these things. Once you've unlocked terraforming, you can basically change where the mountains are, change how the rivers flow, do all of these different things, and basically get free reign to make the island how you want to make the island. There are a few things that can't change, but most of them can be altered and changed. So right now I'm in the process of converting my island into basically this giant city built on terraces, where the house that is mine is actually tucked behind everything else in this little hidden valley that you have to go down basically a hidden set of stairs to reach. Really out of the way, like I'm trying to be a hermit in the game as well for some reason. But it's a fun little thing, but because it's so free and so like you can do whatever you want with it, it is very easy to just be like, oh, I'll just, spend 5-10 minutes doing this one small task. And I will be honest, there was a day where I realized that I had basically gone around my entire island moving all of the trees so I could create a lovely grove of all my fruit trees in one area. Moving all the non-fruit trees into one area and not moving all the fruit trees into a nice ordered grove of fruit. And yes, I did that. I will not admit how long I spent on that, because that was more time than I'd like to admit. But they were beautifully aligned trees that were equidistant apart from each other, and yeah, that's... So yes, I'm doing that, and that is basically how I am spending my time until whenever Final Fantasy VII arrives, because I'll be completely honest and say, once that game arrives, no other game is even entering any of my systems. I have been waiting for this game for far too long, since it was originally announced many years ago, and I believe I have talked about this game since our first episode.
I think it was, right? I think so.
Yeah. So hopefully, if everyone has gotten this far in listening to me, they know I've been looking forward to this game a little bit. Also, I have one coworker who decided to buy the game digitally and has already been playing it all weekend. So I told him I'm not going to talk to him. It is Keith. I told Keith that I'm just not going to talk to him, and that if he gives me any spoilers, he's dead to me.
Yeah, I understand. But you already know the game. It's a remake.
It is, but, they're adding things.
Just giving you a hard time. Just giving you a hard time.
I know. So yes, that is basically what I've been doing with my time. Although I will say the real trouble I am having with Animal Crossing is they have seasonal events. And of course, how Animal Crossing works is everything happens in real time. Right now, they have like an Easter event happening. And the other event that just ended was the Sakura event. So there were like Sakura petals falling everywhere, and you could get special recipes to make like furniture based on Sakura. And yes, that's what you can do. The problem is I did not get all the recipes before that season ended. So if I want those recipes, if I want to do it legitimate, I have to wait till next year. And I think I'm going to end up doing that, because I don't think I'm going to... Because you can potentially roll back the digital clock.
On your device or in the game?
On the device. You basically go into the Switch and say, no, it's really the 9th. But yeah, I didn't get all the recipes there, so it is what it is. I just basically didn't get a Sakura-themed lantern or something like that, which would look very pretty, but I don't need it. It's a digital thing, and there are other pretty lanterns in the game. And if I'm going to keep playing this off and on, then you know what? It'll come back next year. So I'm kind of treating this game as a, let's be relaxed and casual about it.
Sounds good to me.
Since our media for today involves news and news sources, maybe for today we should talk about picking two news sources on how do we get our news.
I think so. I definitely take the CGP Grey approach to news.
Okay.
Whereas news will find me, generally speaking, especially with world events. I don't go out and look for it. In fact, I almost feel like the past few days since I haven't really gone to look for any coronavirus news, I feel a little bit behind, which is fine, but it's just an interesting feeling there too.
Well, you are not cursed with some of the responsibilities I get.
Right.
As the politics and government teacher at our school, one of them, I get to talk about current events every single day. So I have to keep up to date. Otherwise, I will be behind on what I need to talk to the kids about.
Yeah, so let's pick two of our news sources. And one of the things I was thinking too while we discuss this is I think it'll be interesting to find out how we get the news that we get. Like what's the source, not only who the authors are or what the source is, what's the medium that it arrives to us via. Pretty much the only news I go out and look for is tech news. But most of the tech news that I look up comes through RSS. And I do get tech news, and I do have a few personal people's feeds that I follow too. Not too many personal ones, mostly tech. And I guess I'm a little bit disappointed in this pick, but I think my favorite RSS feed that I follow is Mac Rumors.
Okay.
Which disappoints me a little bit because it is not always well written or anything like that, but it is headliney and in such a way that I can get exactly what I want to learn from the headline and then decide whether I want to read it or not. And it is not overwhelming. Like I read maybe 50% of the articles and the rest of them I can pick it up from the headline and then I can swipe it to mark it read and then it's done. So I like Mac Rumors the best. It doesn't have the nicest writing, but it is the most concise and I learn the quickest I can from it. They have a website, but I rarely look at it. I mostly look at it through the RSS feed.
Mm-hmm.
I use Reader, Reeder, to read my RSS feeds. Feedly is the RSS backend that I use. I'm subscribed in Feedly so that it syncs to all my devices, but I use Reader as the front end because I did used to use Google Reader back in the day, but then Google Reader was killed off. So I replaced that with Feedly, and I use Reader, Reeder, to read my news. That's a lot of things together, interestingly. Just to read news for a dying medium, probably, but anyway. Outside of podcasts, perhaps, I guess I shouldn't be saying RSS is a dying medium since our podcast relies on RSS, but...
Yeah. Please don't let RSS die.
No, I hope not. And I don't think it will, because it's so simple, really.
Mm-hmm. I think, if anything, it might shift more to less prevalent in like the front end of things. That might be possible, but... Yeah,
I think I agree. Yeah, it's not going to be... RSS is the back end of a lot of things like podcasts, right? You never see the RSS in a podcast. And it'll be more controlled by things like by Reader and Feedly and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
It's better than the Apple News format and stuff like that. In looking at coding some of these things for school, the RSS format's much nicer. But anyway, I do read a lot of Apple News, and that's where I get it.
All right, well, I will say that the first place that I will talk about is a website called allsides.com.
Okay.
The reason why I like using this is simply because for every article, for every issue, they try to get 3 articles about it. They try to get one that tends to be more left-leaning, one that tends to be more right-leaning, and one that tends to be as centrist as possible. But, I mean, I say that because everything has bias. So, for example, you have the very top one here. The very top news article that they're talking about here is the perspectives on Bernie Sanders' exit from the 2020 race. So, if you didn't know already, Bernie Sanders dropped out of the presidential race like 2-3 days ago now.
I didn't know, actually. Yep, not paying attention.
Yeah, Sanders has dropped out, which means it's basically just Trump or Biden at this point. But then you have that big idea, and then they have the headlines from 3 different news sources. In this case, they have the New York Magazine, 538, and Washington Examiner, all 3 of which say something different about that issue. I like it because it does give multiple perspectives, it also does show bias, and it does show different levels of that bias. They do have certain evaluations of news sources. Now, I will say that All Sides in general does tend to have a bit more, even in their own stuff. They try to be as centrist as possible, but they do have a slight left tilt. But, I mean, it's not very much in comparison to some of the other things. And the only reason I say that is because even in the selection of what articles you choose to evaluate, there can still be bias in that. Because in each of the magazines and news sources, they will actually say whether something is very left, centrist, kind of right, or very right. And they talk about that, but their evaluation might not necessarily mesh with the general populace's evaluation of those things. The only reason I say that is because there have been a couple of people who have brought up certain evaluations that they have are a little bit more, they say something is very right when it's only kind of right, whereas for certain ones that are very left, they say is only kind of left. So that sort of thing is about as much as their bias does. They don't tend to write their own things, but in how they present the information, that too could have some bias. But I like using them because they have the wide selection of sources about the same topic.
Because at least they're presenting both sides.
Yes, they are presenting all the sides. Whether or not they're evaluating them correctly is up to debate. I think they're pretty close as you can get. I mean, because, again, everything has bias.
Yeah, there's always bias, yeah.
That's the first one I would say I go to. Especially when I am talking about class.
All right, my next pick, I think this is more news to me than definitely Mac Rumors. Is mostly rumors. So a lot of the stuff on that site has to be taken with a grain of salt. Like, yeah, this might not actually come to pass. Or they're talking about something where the source isn't really valuable. But one of the reasons I like reading about Mac Rumors is because I like to at least think about what Apple would be if that rumor was true. Realizing that, yeah, this is a rumor, but this tech news blog is definitely more news. And I like their analysis and their writing a lot. But that would have to be sixcolors.com. And I also get them through RSS, so I never go to the site. Although the site is fun to go to every once in a while because it has a very nice color changing effect that rotates through all 6 colors. But 6 Colors is basically Jason Snell and Dan Morin writing about Apple News with more analysis. And it's not rumors. Sometimes they dip into their thoughts on where Apple could be going based on some rumors. They're reporting on other rumors, but more their analysis of them, which does happen occasionally. But I like to read that. A lot of it is long form. I'd say probably 50-50. Some of it's pretty short. Some of it, I do like their shorter articles. But their longer articles are where they go into more depth. And usually what I find in my RSS feed is that usually their longer articles stick around longer because I haven't read through them, even though I want to. And then I do eventually get to read through them, usually on like the weekends or something, where I'll go and catch up on all their longer form stuff. So I do like 6 Colors, and I do read that through my RSS reader also. But yeah, I don't really get like world event news anywhere, possibly through Facebook every once in a while, but most of it just comes eventually to me. I hear about it, so I don't have to worry about looking it up.
The other place I would tend to get my news is I also will read Google News. Now, I do have to admit, this one, because of how Google works, they will provide you with a lot of things that tend to be what you would normally click on.
So they're tailoring it to you.
They are tailoring it to you. So there are certain things that they will present multiple sources on. For example, the top one has the same issue coming from 5 different sources. So I do like that. That being said, for the most part, they will usually only give you 1 or 2 on most of their suggestions. They do tailor everything for you. So tend to be certain things that are like clearly they have decided which of the news sources they're going to give you on this one. I like it because it does provide a vast variety of things, but it is more tailored for me, and so it tends to be things that I am specifically interested in. For example, they definitely have a large section about technology in this, specifically for the fact that I tend to read a lot of technology news. Mm-hmm. And so they're sending that to me.
Yeah, I used Google News more for its search capabilities recently, just to search for things. I've been typing in COVID in Japan, or usually it's COVID and Abe to see what Abe says.
Yeah.
To get the translation of his announcements after they've happened. But that's usually what I'm typing in.
I will do a scroll through to kind of get a general feel of where things are in the world, but again, I approach this one with the understanding that there is definitely going to be bias in this one and the dangers of this becoming an echo chamber if this is the only source I use.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, mine are pretty all biased toward Mac.
I will also say that if you want me to be completely fair, some of the more obscure news I get are from some of the more shall I say, comedic sources.
Yes, exactly. Mm-hmm.
I say that, for example, like, I love Last Week Tonight.
Yep. Although that one, I've realized I need to be careful about how much I'm getting worked up about what he's talking about. I don't remember the last one, but I'm realizing, you know what? I just don't care. And I need to stop caring as much as he's caring about whatever it was. I forget what it was.
Yeah. What he was talking about last time was about...
OAN. Oh, the news network.
The news network, yeah, that's right.
Interestingly.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I'm like, yeah, he's all worked up about this. And I understand why he's worked up.
Because the president shouldn't be this overly, obviously tilted towards anyone who is willing to kowtow to him.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. But at the same time, I'm like, yeah, this doesn't affect me. I don't know anybody who's reading it. If I hear about it, maybe I'll say something. But at the same time, even if I say something to somebody who's reading it, I shouldn't be as passionate as he is when I'm at least saying that. So I shouldn't scare them away when I'm talking about that.
Yeah, I think the big thing for me is the fact that because they have such a place in the press conferences, mm-hmm. that it gives a certain tilt to those conferences. Mm-hmm. So that being said, I mean, like, I love watching Last Week Tonight. Mm-hmm. I love watching a lot of the late shows. When I listen to them, I can fully appreciate and point out to myself, okay, they're definitely approaching this with a really harsh tilt.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So it's just a matter of realizing that and saying, okay, where do I want to fit in on the spectrum?
Mm-hmm. And I mean, you know where I stand. I tend to not support many of the decisions that our current United States president makes. Mm-hmm. And that's all I'm going to say about that. Because this is not the place nor the time.
But we also listen to Because News.
Oh, yes.
I still listen to Wait, Don't Tell Me sometimes too, so...
I have listened to Because News a lot more recently. I did not want to keep listening to Wait, Don't Tell Me simply because it felt like everything was about the president. Mm-mm. But I love listening to Because News, especially when they are things like... One of the sections was all about, like, cold plate, which is basically coleslaw. Mm-mm. I mean, really. Last week, they had a section that was all about a bear that was coming out of hibernation, and they spent like 5 weeks on that. Mm-hmm. Sure, they also have a lot of things where it's less ridiculous, where they talk about the small thing that's happening in the world right now called Corona. Mm-hmm. They talked about how in Canada, drive-in theaters were apparently anticipating a resurgence of people going to drive-in theaters. Because that's a thing. So, yeah.
Yeah, I like the humor ones. And in some ways, that's where I do get my world news. So that's in some ways why I didn't ever feel like Wait, Don't Tell Me was too much Trump, because that was almost the only place I was hearing about it. I don't read anything else.
Yeah, and because I have to keep up on things for the politics class, I tend to get more Trump than I care for.
Makes sense. So, Ryan, are you thirsty?
I am thirsty. What have we got today?
Today we have an interesting one. I'm not exactly sure what it is.
You mean you didn't look it up?
No, I didn't look it up ahead of time. It says CC Lemon on it. We have had a CC Lemon before. CC Lemon Rich Honey, which was poorly reviewed by us.
Yeah.
Very poorly. But this is another CC Lemon, and I'm not exactly sure what it is. It says CC Lemon Peel on it. So it has something to do with lemon peels, I think. Lemon peel extract use is what Google Translate is telling me. It's something like lemon peel extract. So maybe this is going to be more sour?
Maybe.
And one of the things that CC Lemon often says is how many lemons of vitamin C you're getting. This one doesn't say that, so that's kind of interesting.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe this is more lemony flavor, but maybe not as much vitamin C, maybe? Maybe that's what it is.
Well, it says 10% at the bottom.
Yeah, 10% fruit juice. And it's only 420 milliliters. 420.
20.
Not like 490. Not even 450. 420.
On the side, it says Ichinichi.
Yeah, 1 daily value of vitamin C.
Yeah. All right, well.
Yeah, we'll have to see what this tastes like. It'll be interesting.
Yeah. I'm glad that I'm not anticipating lemon beer now.
Yes, no lemon beer.
Ooh, that smells real strong.
Yep, it does. It does. It tastes pretty much like CC Lemon.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe a little more sour, a little less sweet, maybe. Like a touch less sour and a touch less sweet.
Yeah, it's just a little bit more sour.
That's what I meant. A touch more sour and a little bit less sweet.
Which, I'm going to be honest, I love CC Lemon, so, I mean, can't go wrong.
No.
So, touch more sour, I like this.
Mm-hmm.
That's really what it comes down to.
I think I like this too. Now I wonder, is the yellow flavor of CC Lemon just food coloring? Because this is not yellow flavored, right? This is like creamy clear. It's like an off-white color. Not clear, but...
That being said, though, it just has a little bit extra bite than normal.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And I'm not opposed to it.
No, this is a winner.
We've done so many of these, I'm trying to remember how I would rank all these now.
Yeah, where this fits. I think this ranks pretty high. I'm thinking we're not going to be able to straight rank them anymore.
No, I don't think we're able to straight rank them anymore, but this one's definitely on the higher end of things. Mm-hmm. If I was just out and about and saw this in a vending machine, I would buy it.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure too. It might have actually because again, I bought this forever ago too.
We should definitely have like a ranking system,
mm-hmm.
or not a ranking system, but a scoring system. That way we can go 10 out of 10
mm-hmm.
would buy again, or this is probably about 8.
Yeah.
Or
I think we got it pretty good. We can call it the Pepsi Ume, or what was the one?
Or Strawberry Coke.
Pepsi Ume Strawberry Coke rank, or Coke Apple rank. I think this is in the Coke Apple rank.
See, I would rank this above Coke Apple.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But then again, I really love CC Lemon.
Yeah, me too.
I mean, I had regular CC Lemon earlier today.
Oh. Yep. So I think this is high. This is high on the scale.
This is definitely high on the scale. I feel the power of 100 lemons.
Even though it doesn't say it.
Even though it doesn't say it, I'm going to say it's got 100 lemons. Maybe 1,000 lemons.
Yeah, it's too bad that doesn't say it.
The normal bottle says 150 lemons worth of vitamin C.
See, that many lemons got squeezed into that bottle. Well, at least that much vitamin C, I guess, is what it really is, right? I think they're fortifying that.
Oh, most definitely.
That's why there's still only 1% juice in that one, right?
Yeah, there's still only 1% juice in that one.
Mm.
I will be honest, when I have been sick, I have gotten the, like the medicine bottle kind of things.
Mm-hmm.
I've gotten the CC Lemon version of that as well.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Basically, it's just like super concentrated vitamin C.
Interesting.
And it's basically just like pure vitamin C with lemon flavoring.
Mm-hmm.
So it doesn't feel like you're just drinking medicine. Like I said, Would drink that again.
Mm-hmm.
I would buy this again.
Yes, they've adjusted in such a way that it is good. Rich honey did not do that.
Well, that's because rich honey tasted too much like the flavoring.
Yes. Rich honey tasted like Susie Lemon ran into Pooh and got the bad end of the stick. Pooh Bear, excuse me.
Mm-hmm. That's totally what I was thinking.
Sorry, I didn't mean Pooh Bear.
I'm sure, and I know it's because whenever you're talking about Pooh Bear, you are talking to your kids.
Right, whenever I say Pooh, I actually mean the bear in this household.
Yes. And I realize that does not mean that every time I hear Pooh in the way that you have just said it, doesn't mean that my mind isn't going to the other end of the stick.
Hey man, I'm trying to drink soda here.
That's what my goal was right there. The main media for today, why don't you introduce it because it is your media?
Yep, our main media for today is The Ghost of Mr. Chicken. It is a movie made in 1966, so it is not anywhere new. But it is a movie that I had watched growing up, and then I found out that Ryan hadn't seen it yet, so I figured he needs to watch this movie.
Yeah, movie made in 1966. Real surprised I hadn't seen it.
It is a Don Knotts movie, which is why I have seen it, I think. I'm not exactly sure how I was introduced to it, but I watched it growing up. And it was pretty fun, I thought. So I said, Ryan, we need to watch this. So he has watched it.
Yes, I have. It made me laugh at parts, probably for all the wrong reasons.
Yes, I have some things about that too. So I will leave it to Ryan to summarize too.
Thank you.
No problem, Ryan. I was thinking while I was watching, it's like, oh, good. Ryan's gonna have to summarize this movie. That was nice and nasty of me. Sorry.
It's quite all right. I think I have it down for the most part. As succinct as I can make this, I think. So, as always, this is the part of the episode where if you haven't watched the movie, go ahead and watch it. If you have watched the movie, we'll give you a summary so you can get caught up and be involved in the conversation, just in case it's been so long that you can't quite remember everything that happened in it. But go ahead, pause the episode if you haven't watched it yet. Go ahead and watch it, and then join back in when you're ready. So in The Ghost and Mr. Chicken, Luther is a typesetter for a newspaper, and he longs to be a reporter. But unfortunately for him, most of his neighbors and co-workers seem to not quite take him so seriously. Until that is, when one co-worker, and specifically, convinces him to write a small article instead of filling it with just the normal filler text inside the local newspaper. The article he writes is about the supposedly haunted mansion in the neighborhood, where a husband and wife were involved in a murder-suicide many years prior. When this gets published, the town is abuzz with interest in the article, and the editor suggests that he write a follow-up by staying the night in the house. When he does so, he ends up finding a secret passage that leads to the attic, and an organ begins playing by itself. Running from the room, he also comes across a painting of the wife, stabbed in the neck with a pair of garden shears, and the painting seemed to be bleeding. The next day, he writes up an article with the help of his co-workers, and the entire town seems to celebrate him as a hero. However, this also causes the building in question to have its demolition delayed, and the owner, Nicholas Simmons, sues the paper, and Luther specifically, for libel. The court determines that to figure out the truth of the matter, they should just go to the house. They investigate, and they find nothing. It seems that Luther must have made it all up. After the entire party leaves, Luther is brought back in by the coworker who originally had told him to try to investigate the house in the first place. He then reveals that all the tricks were him, and he did it to stop the demolition. Then there is a confrontation with the owner of the house, who threatens Alma, the girl who Luther is involved with, and it is revealed that the murder-suicide was actually just a murder caused by Nicholas Simmons, and that the secret passage was his alibi. Luther attacks Nicholas from behind and saves Alma. Nicholas is arrested, Luther is proven correct, and the movie ends with him and Alma getting married.
Attaboy, Ryan.
Attaboy!
Let me clarify. Thank you for having me. Sorry. So, Ryan.
Yeah.
What do you think of this movie?
It was interesting, is the best way I can put it. There were parts that I was very entertained by, and then there were other parts where I just went, what is Nate having me watch?
Yeah, in rewatching it, I was like, wow, some of these parts feel very old.
Oh.
Like when he says, you large women over there.
Yes. There are certain parts of this movie where you could never get by with making this movie today.
No, you can't say that.
I'm going to start with one small pet peeve I had, first of all. And it was his relationship with Alma.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
The entire relationship with Alma, I had a pet peeve with. This is the reason why. She mentions a couple of times, like, oh, I like you too. But there is nothing about him that would be like, oh, yes. What is causing her to feel any sort of attraction to him?
Mm-hmm.
Most of his interactions with her are him stumbling over words and having the most awkward conversations that it was physically painful for me to watch. Where I'm sitting there and going, ooh. It's basically the equivalent of you sitting in a chair next to a person and going, nice weather we're having. I do like weather.
Or he says things like, yeah, he learned karate from the male, right? So like you're like, wait a minute, you're believing this? Like he knows all of this?
His whole body is a weapon.
Right, I forgot. Sorry. I shouldn't be saying that. He could hurt me with his karate chops, which look nothing like karate. Not that I'm an expert, but I've seen some of it in Japan, and it's not like that.
Yeah, well, his karate chops are basically him holding an open palm out at his waistline.
I am sure it is meant to have fun, but it is pretty funny.
Yeah, so most of his social interactions were just so painful.
Yeah. I think I'm kind of headcanoning Alma away a little bit in terms of the fact that she is falling in love with him over her observations of him in general, as opposed to just her interactions, just her conversations with him. Because there's a bunch of observing going on. Yeah.
I mean, I think the reason why it bothers me is because she comes out as a super competent person.
Yes.
She finds the hidden staircase by herself,
mm-hmm.
when everyone else in that room didn't.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think it's that sort of thing. So I can see, if she were that observant, that super competent, I could see her seeing him for the fact that he is more than what he is able to communicate socially and through his words.
Mm-hmm.
I could see that. But up until the point when they started progressing what seemed like a relationship, that hadn't been established yet.
Yeah, maybe that's true, yeah.
Which is why I actually did yell at the screen and go, why would you say that?
Right. Which is pretty much at the Chamber of Commerce luncheon, right? Where she says she likes him.
Yeah.
All she's seen of him is the restaurant and his interaction at the car.
Yeah.
So that was it at that point.
But once you have the end scene where she's doing all this stuff and being very competent, you see that she has a greater level of observation. So, I could see your headcanon.
Mm-hmm.
I am not fully buying into it yet, but I can see it.
The movie didn't explain it, so,
Yeah.
I did notice you left them all out of the summary, which is a lot of the movie is wasted on those times, but yes.
The parts I included in the summary were the more, shall I say, plot-based things.
Yes, exactly. There's a little plot. Everything else is just humor.
Yeah, it was that, emotional drama humor. I will be honest, every time I heard Attaboy, I could not stop laughing.
Wasn't that great?
Because of all the parts of the movie that made me consistently laugh, it was the Attaboys.
Well, I mean, one of the funny things, too, is, they play it like it's such a small town. Everybody knows each other, right?
Yeah.
Except nobody knows who that guy is. Nobody knows who that guy is.
He's never on camera.
Yeah, the homeless guy, they know who he is. But the guy that says Attaboy, they cannot figure who that is.
Well, the homeless guy, they know he's not part of the
Chamber of Commerce.
Chamber of Commerce, but he is part of the Rotary.
Sorry. It's hilarious, isn't it?
Yeah, because seriously, it does play like one of those really small towns that everyone knows everyone.
I think one of the things that I liked, that I noticed about this movie again, and maybe this is why I liked it, but not all of the humor had to revolve around Don Knotts, which I appreciated, I think, is that there were people that had situational humor that weren't just him. Like that cop, the deputy or whatever that is walking around saying, you're CFC and you're not.
And you're okay.
Exactly. So I liked that. I liked that there could be humor outside of Don Knotts.
Mm-hmm.
I guess I'm going to draw a little comparison to Jerry Lewis's movies, because I watched one of his movies recently too, and it seemed like everything funny had to revolve around him. But maybe now I'm realizing that because I've seen this movie, but it's interesting anyway.
If you're talking about things where the humor always has to revolve around the comedians, a example of that is the Marx Brothers, but I think they do it well.
Mm-hmm. They do it well.
I think the big difference, though, also is the fact that there are usually 4 of them in the movie.
Yeah. They're in every scene.
Mm-hmm.
But they don't all have to be in every scene.
No, and all the humor revolves around them, but it's because whatever is happening in the scene that is funny tends to be the other people dealing with whatever they're doing.
Yeah, exactly. Yes. So we're laughing at the other people's reactions, not necessarily at what they're doing. That's a good point.
Yeah,
too.
I mean, the whole scene where the guy selling the nuts on the
peanuts.
The peanuts, yeah. And his hat ends up getting tossed in the fire.
Mm-hmm.
That whole scene, the thing that is funny is the Marx Brothers. But also, it's because of how the other actors are reacting to that.
The straight guy dealing with what the clown is doing, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. So I think that's one of the things I really liked about this movie, was that for being a movie made in 1966, there are actually so many little things, like the women who have their shock going through their line like at least 3 times, right? Like that's great. It's ridiculous, but it's not something that was done by Don Knotts.
No, but it was one of those things that was very funny to watch every time, because it was basically the group of
large ladies. Sorry.
I was going to say they seem to be housewives.
Yeah.
But the group of housewives who all have gotten a little too entranced by occultism and really play it up. Also, I do have to admit, it was a nice touch that the banker's wife owned 51% of the bank.
Plot reasons.
Because of plot.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Even the Behind Mars guy was good, right? The guy that had his meeting behind Mars.
And the school teacher who walks away after having basically destroyed his character and goes, "I hope I helped, honey."
Yeah. And she's on a first name basis with the judge too, right? Like, I love the small town stuff.
Well, clearly she had been the 3rd grade teacher for everyone in town.
Exactly. Everyone knows, which is just surprising that Beckett doesn't know her, but maybe, I guess he moved into town.
Yeah.
One of the nice things I liked about this, realizing that this time, was that Beckett stands up for Luther, like, tremendously. And I thought that was great.
Mm-hmm.
I would see him standing up for any of his writers, like Ollie, perhaps.
Mm.
But the fact that he stands up for Luther was interesting to me.
Yeah.
Luther is just a typesetter. There's no evidence that Beckett saw Luther as anything more than the typesetter. I mean, there's definitely evidence that Ollie sees Luther as nothing more than a typesetter. But the fact that there's no evidence anywhere really that Beckett sees Luther as more than a typesetter anywhere else.
Mm-hmm. And I think that also comes down to the reason why he would stand up for him, though, is even if he was just a typesetter, I think he's also Luther. He might be, like, startled by things, but he wouldn't outright lie like that.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
He's like, yeah, no, I'm going to support him.
Mm-hmm. I think the thing that I like the most is that it is a movie where the everyman wins here. Luther is played to be a little bit clumsy, but he's definitely not played to be stupid. and I appreciated that. And I guess it's because I'm realizing this because I watched a Jerry Lewis movie recently where Jerry Lewis was definitely played to be stupid. Luther is somebody who's been trying in life. Maybe he's not succeeded in everything, but has definitely been trying. So I think I like that this is a movie where an everyman made it, right? Like in the first scene of the movie where he's driving by and the guy gets hit by the wood, which is pretty great how the woman says murder.
Yeah.
In that first scene, he's trying, like, oh, okay, I'm here. I'm the news guy. I'm trying to take a picture. Yeah, I'm a little bit frazzled and a little bit surprised, but...
He's trying.
He's trying to do it, and then it ends up being hilarious after that.
Of course.
But he's trying to do the right thing.
That scene, the very first scene of the movie that you were watching, my first reaction to that was, how did she jump to murder so quickly?
Yeah. Nobody checked him, right?
And that was within 5 seconds of, like, he gets hit and she's immediately yelling murder. From her porch is yelling out murder.
Yeah, she could see it in her hair curlers from her window that, oh yeah, that guy was murdered with that piece of wood. Not just knocked out, no, murdered. But I like how they say it too. Murder.
Murder.
Do calm and murder go together? Because even he says it too, right? It's pretty funny.
I was trying to place that accent. I know they're supposed to be from, like, Kansas.
Yeah.
But...
not all of them were. That's pretty good.
You were saying that you like how the everyman...
Yeah, he's kind of played to be everyman. He's a little bit clumsy. I mean, a lot of the clumsiness was kind of forced on him, I think, because of his situations.
He was a little bit clumsy, but when it came to social situations, he was...
He flubs his words, right? He's not good there.
Well, not just that. Like, any sort of social interaction, it was like he went almost full inept.
Yeah, that's true.
I just think of, like, almost every interaction where he was dealing with people, it was I can't say what I'm thinking.
Mm-hmm.
The speech was just, ow.
You didn't like the speech he gave at the Chamber of Commerce?
I liked the Attaboys.
Let me clarify that.
It was me sitting there and going, I've heard this speech before, and it was when my students were trying to give a presentation in my class.
The electrician must be a Democrat.
Yeah. There were a couple of times where you're just sitting there and, like, maybe it is because I am more aware of, like, those sort of social cues than most, that, like, those sort of things tend to, like, make my stomach go, ooh.
Well, and I was wondering if that's one of the reasons I liked it too, is because this everyman, I mean, I'm definitely not as clumsy or as socially inept, but if I ever had feelings of that, at least somebody like Luther can pull through it, right? So somebody like I can maybe too.
True.
I wasn't socially inept growing up, but I definitely had moments where I felt like I didn't really like how that situation played out, how I played out that situation in real life. So I guess it's one of the things I connected to.
Oh, that makes sense.
So you needed to watch this movie when you were younger.
I should have. No, I will say that it was a very interesting movie. Maybe it's because I have gotten so used to more modern movie-making sensibilities. Mm-hmm. There were certain choices that they were making that I was sitting there and going, why? What in your character is saying that you would say that or do that? Mm-hmm. Those were the things that were bothering me, but in thinking about what you're saying, yeah, I can get behind that.
And I think one of the things I didn't like, and it still bothers me to this day, is that I loved how the movie explained away every ghost thing. Mm-hmm. He explained it all away, except for the organ during the wedding, the very last scene.
Oh, see, I was expecting somebody to just come out from behind and be like, "Oh yeah, here's the automated rolla thing."
Yeah,
because that's what I was thinking was going to be the thing all along was, oh yeah, it's actually got a timer on it.
Mm-hmm. Well, and the other funny thing is that the music playing during the closing credits does not match the piano keys being pressed at all. I can't read the piano keys in terms of notes, but the tempo is completely off. So you got to know that something else is going on there. So probably, yeah. And they didn't have the roll that fit the music of the movie, so they just played whatever roll they had on hand.
Exactly.
But I love the music in this movie too.
Yeah.
I wish you could get the. I can't find it in Apple Music anyway. Maybe I didn't look in the iTunes store proper, but I do have the organ music. They have in Apple Music, but they don't have the jaunt music that they have. They don't have that music in Apple Music, so it's too bad. But I would like that music because it's just kind of funny.
I thought it was interesting. I thought it was funny. There were definitely some character choices that I saw that I had issue with, but I enjoyed the movie.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, I'm glad you liked it, but it is definitely an older movie. It's one of my favorite old movies.
Well, I'm going to have to see if I can't find any older films that you haven't seen that I really like. Mm-hmm. Problem is, I think most of the ones that I know of you've probably already seen, because all of my favorite ones from when I was younger, I've watched pretty much every Marx Brothers movie that ever has come out.
I don't know if I've watched all of them. I've watched most of them, and probably, unfortunately, the good ones. At least, unfortunately for the podcast. Fortunately for me, unfortunately for the podcast.
I mean, I watched a couple of kaiju movies growing up too, but
are they good? Sorry. They're good.
They were good kaiju movies.
Exactly. How low is that bar?
That's a pretty low bar.
Editing the 5 tracks wasn't actually that hard, surprisingly.
Really?
No, it wasn't much harder because I think it's different if it was a panel show. But because we all basically took turns talking, like you would call on us and then we'd talk and then the next person would talk, right?
Yeah.
Like there were some times where we'd throw jokes in or things like that.
Mm-hmm.
But most of the time we were just taking turns. So in the end, it really wasn't that hard.
So you're saying we should have more contestants next time?
Adding 1 or 2 more tracks might not, maybe one, might not add the difficulty that much more. It's not exponential anyway. But surprisingly, it went pretty smoothly. The only real hiccup I ran into was that for whatever reason, 5 tracks on my iPad, I just couldn't handle it on my iPad.
Mm-hmm.
So I transferred the whole project to my wife's iPad, who has a newer iPad. And it was so much smoother on her iPad. Unbelievably smoother.
So you're saying you need a new iPad?
I do, but it's not a school reason.
True.
So I was impressed with how not horrible it was to edit that episode.
Yeah, and I know that everyone who was involved said that how much they enjoyed it, so I know that at least from what I could tell so far, they would probably be willing to do another one in the future.
Then actually, this was the episode with the fastest turnaround. That was only 11 days, I think.
As a whole, I thought it was a fun episode to do.
Well, and this categories thing, so interestingly, you did pretty well with the 10 seconds most of the time, because I have the time code on the top, right? And I can see when you finish the question and when it's finally answered. And yeah, I'll let you know they were all within 10 seconds. But
that one, I was actually under my breath counting to 10 every time.
Oh, okay.
Which, let me just say, years and years of music theory and stuff like that really helps you keep time very well. They kicked me out of the band.
Oh, yeah?
When I was a bit younger. Yeah, I had rhythm down, but, after several years and I just don't improve on playing any brass instruments that they give me, they were just like, Ryan, why don't you move over to percussion? And then when they were like, we have enough percussionists, we don't need Ryan there, they go, Ryan, why don't you try the choir? So I don't know if that says something about me and instruments or how high their standards were.